Amani and Lulu were like the sun and the moon. When the sun shone, Amani, it was steady and warm. And when the moon appeared, Lulu, it was bright and full of fun. They loved each other so much that everyone in their part of Nairobi knew about it. They had been waiting to get married for 3 long years. It all started at the university. From day one, people could see they were perfect for each other. Lulu was always laughing, making jokes, and lighting up any room she walked into. Amani was quieter, but he was strong, worked hard, and loved Lulu with all his heart. He admired her energy and how she could make anyone smile, even on a bad day. When they finally announced they were getting married, it was like a huge party for the whole neighborhood. Family, friends, even people who barely knew them were happy for them. It was like their love was contagious, spreading joy to everyone. The wedding day was like something out of a movie. The sun was shining, the sky was blue, and everything was perfect. Amani looked handsome in his navy blue suit. He usually wore jeans and t-shirts, so seeing him dressed up made Lulu's heart skip a beat. Lulu was absolutely stunning in her white gown. She looked like a princess, and Amani couldn't take his eyes off her. The wedding was in a beautiful garden. White roses were everywhere, along with colorful balloons and cloths that danced in the breeze. Traditional Kenyan music filled the air, and people danced and sang with so much joy you would think you are in heaven. Kids ran around laughing, aunties gossiped and giggled, and uncles patted Amani on the back, welcoming him to the family. When Amani and Lulu said their vows, promising to love each other forever, there wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. They laughed, they kissed, and then they cut the beautiful wedding cake. It had 3 layers and was covered in white frosting and flowers. Then came the speeches. Lulu's father stood up, his eyes shining with tears. "Amani, you are a good man," he said, his voice a little shaky. "Take care of my daughter. Love her like I do. You two are so obviously meant to be together. May nothing ever come between you." Later, after all the guests had gone home and the music had stopped, Amani and Lulu sat in their hotel room. They were finally alone, husband and wife. The room was filled with wedding gifts, boxes of all shapes and sizes. They started opening them, laughing at the funny cards and admiring the presents. They got generous cash gifts from their families, which would help them start their life together. They also received new household items like blenders, towels, and photo frames. Lulu was especially excited about a set of fancy plates her mothers had given them. Then, Lulu spotted a box that looked different from the others. It was black, with a deep red ribbon tied around it. It was plain and stood out. There was no name on it, no card, no clue who had given it to them. Just the black box. "Babe, who brought this one?" Lulu asked, pointing to the mysterious box. Amani looked confused. "I don't remember seeing it on the gift table. Maybe someone added it later when we weren't looking." Curiosity got the better of Lulu. She carefully unwrapped the box, pulling off the red ribbon. Inside, nestled in some black tissue paper, was a wooden statue. It was a carving of a couple holding hands. But there was something strange and unsettling about it. The faces of the couple weren't normal. They had twisted smiles like they were hiding something, and their eyes were sunken and dark. The carving was rough and uneven, like it had been made in a hurry, or by someone who didn't care much about the details. Even worse, the wood had a strong, strange smell. It smelled like smoke, like ash from a fire, and something else. Something rotten, like old leaves decaying in the forest. Lulu wrinkled her nose. "It's weird," Lulu said, turning the statue over in her hands. But maybe someone gave it as a joke. Maybe they thought it was funny. Maybe, Amani said, but he didn't sound so sure. He laughed nervously. Let's keep it anyway. It looks old. It might be valuable. Maybe it's an antique. They put the statue on a small table beside their bed. Lulu didn't like it, but she didn't want to cause a fuss on their wedding night. She hoped it wouldn't bring bad luck. That night, Lulu had a terrible nightmare. She dreamt that she was in the hotel room, but everything was dark and cold. She saw a dark figure standing near the bed. She couldn't see its face, but she could feel its eyes staring at her. They were glowing red. The figure started whispering in a strange language that Lulu didn't understand. It sounded ancient and evil. She tried to move, to scream, but she was frozen, unable to do anything. The room felt colder and colder, like all the warmth had been sucked out of it. Suddenly, she woke up, gasping for air. Her heart was pounding and she was covered in sweat. She looked around the room. Amani was still asleep beside her. He was breathing deeply and didn't seem to have noticed anything. Lulu shook him gently. "Amani," she whispered. "Amani, wake up." He stirred and opened his eyes. "What is it, babe? What's wrong?" "I had a bad dream," Lulu said, her voice trembling. "There was someone standing in the room. They were watching me. It was just a nightmare," Amani said, pulling her close and kissing her forehead. "You're probably just tired after such a busy day. Try to relax and go back to sleep." But deep down he felt a little uneasy too. He couldn't explain it, but he had a strange feeling in the pit of his stomach. The next morning, Lulu couldn't shake off the feeling of dread that had settled over her. She told Amani about the nightmare again. "Nightmares are normal after a busy day," Amani said, trying to reassure her. He kissed her forehead. "Don't worry about it. It was just a bad dream. They went back to their normal lives, but..." Lulu couldn't forget the unsettling statue and the nightmare. After their honeymoon, they moved into their new apartment. It was small but cozy, perfect for just the two of them. They spent the first few days unpacking boxes, hanging curtains, and decorating their rooms. Lulu wanted to make it feel like home. The statue stayed on the table beside their bed. Lulu wanted to get rid of it, but she didn't want to upset Amani. She hoped that if she ignored it, it would just go away. But then, small things started to happen. Doors would open and close by themselves, even when there was no wind. They would hear whispering at night as they slept. It was faint, like someone was talking just outside the door. But they couldn't make out what the voices were saying. Lulu would wake up suddenly in the middle of the night with the feeling that someone had touched her. She would look around the room, but Amani was always asleep beside her. She would try to convince herself that it was just her imagination. One evening, Amani was sitting in the living room, reading a book. He glanced up and saw a shadow run across the wall. It was quick, like a person darting past the window. He jumped up and looked outside, but there was no one there. He told himself it was just his mind playing tricks on him. He was probably just tired and stressed from work. But the strange occurrences continued, and Lulu and Amani started to feel more and more uneasy. They tried to ignore it, but it was hard to shake the feeling that something was wrong in their apartment. Weeks passed, and something started to shift between them. The love that had been so strong seemed to be fading, little by little. Lulu started to feel lonely, even when Amani was right next to her. They weren't connecting the way they used to. Amani started coming home from work tired, angry, and impatient. He would snap at Lulu for no reason, and she didn't know how to talk to him anymore. His face was always frowning, like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. One day, Lulu decided to cook Amani's favorite meal to make things better: beef stew and chapati. She spent hours in the kitchen, carefully preparing everything just the way he liked it. She hoped that a good meal would help them reconnect and ease the tension between them. But Amani came home late that night. He walked through the door without saying hello and slumped down on the couch. "Food again," he complained, glancing at the table. "You didn't even iron my shirt for tomorrow. I need a clean shirt for that meeting." Lulu frowned. She had been so excited to surprise him with his favorite meal. "You could say thank you," she said, trying to keep the hurt out of her voice. "I worked hard on this." "You're always acting like a victim," Amani shouted, his voice rising. "I work hard all day, and you just sit around here doing nothing." They ate in silence, the delicious meal turning to ash in their mouths. The tension in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Lulu felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. The fighting became normal. It was like they couldn't talk to each other without arguing. They argued about small things: dirty socks left on the floor, phone calls that weren't returned, time spent on social media. Everything became a battleground. The house grew cold, not in temperature, but in feeling. It was like all the warmth and happiness had been sucked out of it. There were no more morning kisses, no more laughter echoing through the rooms. The silence was deafening. One day, Lulu caught herself staring at the statue beside their bed. It looked like it was smiling wider than before, its twisted expression mocking her. She shivered and quickly turned away. One night, Lulu had another nightmare. This time, she saw her late grandmother standing in the bedroom, pointing at the statue. Her grandmother's face was filled with sadness, and she was crying. "It brings death, child," she whispered, her voice fading. "Remove it from your house. It will destroy everything you love." Lulu woke up screaming. Amani rushed to her side, his eyes wide with concern. "What is it? What's wrong?" She pointed at the statue, her hand shaking. "It's that thing. We need to throw it away. It's causing all this bad luck." Amani sighed. He was tired of hearing about the statue. "It's just a piece of wood, Lulu. You're being too emotional. You need to relax." Amani changed more and more. He started drinking after work, stopping at the bar with his friends instead of coming straight home. He no longer cared about Lulu's feelings. He would ignore her when she tried to talk to him. He started locking his phone, hiding it from her. He was always on it, texting and smiling, but he wouldn't tell her who he was talking to. He started shouting more, losing his temper over the smallest things. Lulu tried to pray, to find comfort in her faith, but the house always felt heavy, like something was watching her. She couldn't shake off the feeling of dread. One evening, she found a dead bird on their balcony. It was lying on its side, its eyes closed, its feathers ruffled. There was no sign of injury, and no one knew how it had gotten there. Lulu felt a shiver run down her spine. Desperate, Lulu called her aunt, Mama Zaina. Mama Zaina lived in a nearby village and was known for her spiritual healing abilities. People said she had a gift for seeing things that others couldn't see. When Mama Zaina entered the house, she stopped at the door, her eyes wide. She took a deep breath, her nose twitching. "Something evil lives here," she said, her voice low and serious. "I can feel it in the air." She walked straight to the bedroom and stopped in front of the table where the statue was sitting. Without touching it, she covered it with a red cloth. "This statue was given to you by someone who wants to destroy your love," she said, her voice firm. "It holds the spirit of separation. It is feeding on your happiness." That evening, they went to a riverbank outside Nairobi. Mama Zaina built a fire, the flames leaping and crackling in the darkness. She chanted prayers in her native tongue, her voice rising and falling in a rhythmic pattern. Lulu and Amani held hands, their fingers intertwined. When Mama Zina threw the statue into the fire, a loud scream came from it. It wasn't the sound of burning wood. It was a real scream, like something was dying. It was a horrible sound that made Lulu and Amani jump back in terror. The fire flickered and danced, then grew taller and brighter. Amani and Lulu fell to the ground, overwhelmed by the power of the moment. Then, silence. The fire burned steadily, consuming the statue. "It's done," Mama Zina whispered, her voice hoarse. "The evil is gone, but the scars, they will remain. You must be strong." After the statue burned, the house felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted. They cleaned every corner, scrubbing away the darkness. They prayed together, asking for forgiveness and healing. Amani apologized, tears streaming down his face. Lulu smiled again, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. But the damage had gone deep. Months of pain and resentment don't vanish in one night. Trust was broken, and it would take time to rebuild it. They tried. They went on dates, trying to recapture the spark they had lost. They went to counseling, hoping to learn how to communicate better. They prayed more, seeking guidance and strength from God. For a while, it seemed to be working. They started to laugh together again, and the tension in their home eased. But sometimes, even healed wounds leave bruises. One rainy evening, Amani was cleaning out an old box in the garage. He found a small piece of the statue, a piece that had broken off when Mama Zina threw it into the fire. He froze, staring at the fragment of wood. A part of him wanted to throw it away, to destroy it completely, but he didn't. He put it in his pocket and took it back inside. That night, they fought again. The argument started over something small, but it quickly escalated. Words flew like knives, cutting deep into their hearts. "You never really changed," Lulu cried, her voice full of pain. "You're still the same angry, selfish person you always were." "And you never forgave me," Amani shouted, his face red with anger. "You're always holding the past against me. You never let it go." In the morning, Lulu packed her bags. She couldn't take it anymore. She needed to get away, to find some peace. The divorce was quiet and undramatic. There were no loud arguments, no screaming matches. Just sadness, a deep sense of loss. Friends were shocked, wondering what had gone wrong. Family blamed work stress, money problems, pride. But Amani and Lulu knew the truth. The evil gift had done its work. It had poisoned their love and destroyed their marriage. They moved on with their lives, separately. Lulu went to live with her sister, finding comfort in her family. Amani moved to a new apartment, trying to start over. They tried to forget the pain, to put the past behind them. But forgetting wasn't easy. The memories haunted them, and they couldn't shake off the feeling that they had failed. 2 months after the divorce, their pastor called them separately. He said he had been praying for them and felt that God was telling him to help them. He invited them both to his office, hoping to mediate and help them find a way back to each other. They were hesitant at first, but they trusted their pastor. They agreed to meet with him. They talked for hours, pouring out their hearts. They cried, sharing their pain and their regrets. They finally told someone everything about the gift, the nightmares, the curse, the despair. They revealed all, the secrets they had been keeping, the hurts they had been hiding. "I can heal this," the pastor said, his voice full of compassion. "But it will take prayer, fasting, and faith. You must be willing to surrender your pride and let God work in your hearts." So they agreed. They fasted and prayed for 1 full month, denying themselves food and spending hours in prayer. Every day they read the Bible, listen to sermons, and ask God to bring healing to their broken hearts and their broken marriage. During that month, they also attended Christian counseling sessions. They talked about their fears, their hurts, their mistakes. They opened up old wounds so that they could truly heal them with the help of God. By the end of the month, something had changed. Their hearts were soft again, and they saw each other with new eyes. They started to be kind to each other, offering words of encouragement and support. They laughed for the first time in months. They forgave each other, truly and completely. One day during prayer, they both felt a deep sense of peace wash over them, not just toward each other, but toward the past. They knew that God had forgiven them, and they were ready to forgive themselves. They remarried quietly, with just close family and friends present. The second wedding was simple, but full of genuine love and peace. There were no strange gifts, only prayers and blessings. They were careful about who they invited into their lives, protecting their marriage from outside influences. There were tears, but this time they were tears of joy and gratitude. Lulu's father held her hand and whispered, "Now I see the hand of God at work. I thought all hope was lost, but God has restored everything." From that day on, they started over. They moved into a new house, a fresh start, free from the negative energy of their old apartment. They established new routines, prioritizing their relationship and their faith. They set new boundaries, protecting their marriage from anything that could harm it. They didn't just fall back into old habits. They built their love again, brick by brick, with God at the center of their relationship. They learned to communicate openly and honestly, to forgive quickly, and to always put each other first. Now, years later, Amani and Lulu travel around the country, speaking at couples conferences. They tell their story openly, sharing their struggles and their triumphs. "We almost lost each other because we didn't guard our home spiritually," Amani says, his voice filled with emotion. "We let something evil into our lives, and it almost destroyed us. But God is stronger than any curse," Lulu adds, smiling at Amani. "He can heal any broken heart and restore any broken relationship." They hold hands, smiling at each other, their eyes filled with love and gratitude. Lulu ends each talk with the same words. "Be careful what you accept into your home. Not every gift is a blessing. Some carry darkness. But with God, even the worst story can have a beautiful ending. Always protect your marriage, and always keep God at the center of your life."